of the Committee on Electoral Reform. Sige, I enjoin you to take your seats, please. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. So I believe all the sectors are adequately represented. So with that, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The public hearing of the Committee on Electoral Reform and People's Participation is hereby called to order. We resumed the hearing conducted several weeks ago last month and acknowledge the virtual presence of Senators Poe, Villar, and Bongo. So with that, considering that the public hearing in last March 17 was merely suspended, the presence of the quorum is not needed nor has to be declared, but we are grateful for the presence of our colleagues. Now may I call on Attorney Dana Alberto, Legislative Committee Secretary, to acknowledge the presence of our resource persons who attended physically or virtually. So, Attorney Dana, please.
Good morning. The Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation would like to acknowledge the presence of its distinguished guests, namely, from the COMELEC, we have Commissioner Marlon S. Casquejo, Commissioner Ray E. Bulay, Commissioner Amy Torrefranca Neri, Commissioner George Erwin M. Garcia, Director Teopisto E. L. Nas Jr., Director Helen G. Aguila Flores, Director Jeannie V. Flororita, Director Julio Tadeus P. Hernan, Attorney LGM Bernardo, and virtually present, Director James Jimenez. From COMELEC Office for Overseas Voting, Director Sonia Bea Lozada. From DFA OVS, Undersecretary Brigido J. Dulay. Assistant Secretary Raul Hernandez. Ms. Joerlyn Espiritu, Ms. Erica Laudencia. We also have Attorney Ivan Uy, JCOC AES IT consultant. From CICC, Colonel Alan Araw-Araw. From DICT, Secretary Emmanuel Ray R. Cainti, Attorney Elias Omar Sana, Mr. Ariel Rodriguez, Mr. Terry Bumolo, Mr. Antonio Edward Padre, Attorney Ira Paulo Pozon, from NPC, Attorney Michael R. Santos, and Mr. Aaron Dulog. From NBI, we have Chief Victor Lorenzo, Mr. Raymond Panotes, Mr. Francis Senora. From DOJ, Attorney Carla Isabella A. Nitura Calugay, and Attorney Marcelo H. Bragado. Also physically present from CICC, Under Secretary Mancao. From Smartmatic, Attorney Christian Robert Lim, Ms. Filipinas Ordonio, Mr. Neil Baniked. From PPCRB, we have Dr. Arvin Serrano. Virtually present from NAMFREL, Mr. Eric Jude O. Alvia, Mr. Angel S. Averia Jr., Attorney Emir Mendoza. From Lente, Attorney Rona Caritos. That would be all, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much. And we have three items on our agenda this morning. Let's begin with the first one so that we can obtain some level of closure on the inquiry on the alleged breach of the COMELEC data servers. Resolutions filed by Senator Tolentino, myself, and Senator Pacquiao. So we begin with the NBI. I believe there's a presentation and the sequence of events that Mr. Lorenzo has requested be presented this morning. Is that correct, sir?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Yes, Madam Chair. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. We already submitted a copy of our report pertaining to this case, and also if you're going to allow us we prepared a very short presentation. So we will be on the same page on how we conducted or the timeline of events that happened in this case, Your Honor.
Okay, before you begin your presentation, you will be the presenter, Mr. Lorenzo, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, may I urge the secretary to please administer the oath? Thank you. In the interest of time and brevity, perhaps we can ask all the resource persons or those who will testify this morning to please take the oath and stand while our officers administer them.
Kindly stand up and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name and institution. Do solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this proceeding. Thank you. You may all sit down.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And Mr. Lorenzo, please proceed with the NBI presentation and the narration of events.
Ma'am, would you launch the presentation, ma'am? Next slide, please. Let me run through the timeline of events, ma'am. As I've mentioned, Madam Chair, just for us to be on the same page. In August 9, Argana was hired by Smartmatic, and November 20, he was deployed at the COMELEC warehouse to run some tests with the automated election system. And on December 28 to January 2 of 22, our Smartmatic already detected some unusual behavior as to their logs or the traffic in their system. December 29.
May I interrupt, Mr. Lorenzo? Is this admitted by Smartmatic? Unusual traffic and downloads already observed as early as 28 December.
Maybe the term, Your Honor, is not, yeah, we admit that, Your Honor. In the company intranet server, there was a unusual heavy access of the files, Your Honor.
Thank you. This is the first time this committee hears of this. We recognize the arrival of the chairman of COMELEC. Thank you for being here. Mr. Lorenzo, please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. They have also included this statement in the affidavits that they have submitted in support of when we applied for a search warrant. So on December 29, completion of tests in COMELEC warehouse. That's when the time their former employee brought his laptop outside the premises of COMELEC. January 3, 2022, he reports back to the premises of Smartmatic in Taguig and brought back the laptop that he took from the premises of COMELEC. January 9 detects unusual traffic in their system using VPN logs downloads and were traced to the former employee of Smartmatic. January 10, Manila Bulletin publishes a story by Art Samaniego. January 12, an administrative inquiry was conducted on the former employee of Smartmatic, wherein he admitted that he allowed third person to have access to his laptop in order to be connected to the facilities of Smartmatic in exchange for some training materials. 14 January, Arganat was terminated.
I'm sorry. At this juncture, the report indicated that money was actually offered somewhere between 50,000 and 300,000. In your timeline, it's merely the offer of free lectures. Which is it?
Your Honor, in the administrative inquiry conducted by Smartmatic, he only admitted having been promised training modules in exchange for allowing them, the third party, to access his laptop in order to be connected to the Smartmatic facilities. But when he appeared in our office, uh, he admitted uh, he admitted that he was also promised, aside from the training modules, he was also promised money ranging from 50,000 to 300,000, Your Honor.
Thank you. So the allegation that he was offered money um, was after this administrative inquiry. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Madam Chair.
Thanks. Okay.
So on January 15, NBI conducted ocular inspection of COMELEC warehouse. We focus our inspection at the time on the physical facility, Your Honor, and on the we conducted security assessment. On January 16, the XOX sent another email threatening to send the files that it allegedly obtained networks to Congress and the media. January 19, XOX makes a Facebook group, uploads pictures of files allegedly taken from Smartmatic. January 28, XOX sends another email demanding that the former talk privately and threatening to release the public the worst documents and files. Smartmatic chooses not to speak with the group. February 2, Argana, the former employee, goes to NBI CCD office. That was the time when he admitted being promised monetary consideration in exchange for the access. March 8, NBI CCD conducted forensic imaging on the surrendered laptop of the former employee. 23 March, XOX makes second Facebook group. 26, XSOX makes third Facebook group. April 3, malinis na halalan 22.
May I just request that the next slides referring to the incidents being narrated by Mr. Lorenzo be uploaded. Narito pa rin tayo sa unang pahina. Ayun,
Sorry.
sa Abril na. Okay, kailan yung search warrant? Hindi, wag mo na yung search warrant. Kailan yung affidavit in-execute?
On February 2 of 2022, Your Honor.
Okay, kasi interview lang na nakatakda rito eh. Okay, ang alam natin February 2 ang date nung sinumpaang salaysay, di ba?
Yeah, tama po yun, Your Honor. And April 3, malinis na halalan 2022, which is also the Facebook group of XSOX, was published. April 15, SSOX makes a fourth Facebook group. 10, NBI serves the search warrant is subject of Argana's residence. April 12, we filed charges against Argana for illegal access under Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012, Your Honor. Next slide, please. We are inclined to believe, Your Honor, that Argana is not acting alone, but just the same, we are also inclined to believe that he was not able to meet those people who convinced him to provide access to his laptop because they were only communicating via Facebook Messenger. We believe that he is not acting alone because he is not that fluent in English, and when XOX communicated with Smartmatic, you can easily see in the letter that medyo articulate po sila. And Smartmatic was able to retrieve 722 logins within 6 days, meaning it will be physically impossible for the former employee to navigate the controlled environment and controlled environment for 726 times in a matter of 6 days. That's why we believe he is not acting alone, Your Honor. And we have already identified some person of interest. Next slide, please. So when we were searching for the possible person of interest who convinced Argana, we looked at the uh, Facebook page of X, and we noted that it has a black background. So we searched the internet to determine who are the group or who are the people using a black background in creating their pages. Because in the cyber world, Your Honor, hackers will always leave a trademark or a design that will be later on attributable to them. So we navigated the internet, and as you can see in the first 6 pages above, all of them have black backgrounds. And XOX equally has the same black background. And also in the
Isn't that a very vague suggestion, Mr. Lorenzo? There are millions of pages with black backgrounds all over Facebook and the internet.
Madam Chair, on the next slide, I'm going to explain because this is not the only basis that we have in identifying the person of interest.
Okay.
And also in the Iloilo Black Hat, it has a black background. So next slide, please. In order for us to understand how we were able to determine the person of interest in this particular case, Madam Chair, we have to go back to 2016 on the COMELEC issue. At that time, there were 340 of data that were exfiltrated from the database of COMELEC. Two were arrested in that particular case, but there's another third hacker that was not arrested, and he was able to elude arrest until now. The third hacker packaged himself as a supporter of to protect votes of candidates. And let's go move forward to 2018, Your Honor. After the third hacker left Manila, he went to Iloilo, and in 2018 there were massive defacement of government and private websites in Iloilo, and the one who claimed responsibility is the Iloilo Black Hats. Again, if you're going to notice, the background of Iloilo Black Hats is also black. And the Anonymous Philippines, who claims responsibility to the 2016 COMELEC, has also a black background. And at that time, in the Iloilo incident, they even hacked into the system of hospitals and exfiltrated patients' list, including the name, nature of illnesses, and they converted it into plain text and uploaded it for the public to have access. So at that time, Madam Chair, pagka-clinic mo lang yung link na provide nila, makikita mo na ho kung sino ang may sakit, sino may cancer, sino mang HIV, everything. And that precise time, Madam Chair, there was a group established a security business offering their services to the government and at the same time to private entities to serve as a penetration tester, vulnerability assessment. Those are the services that they have offered at that precise time. And with this SOX, again, ma'am, uh, they are claiming that according to the report of Art Samaniego, they have claimed to have exfiltrated 60 gig of information, 60 gigabytes, where in fact, when we compared it with the logs provided by Smartmatic, the former employee was only able to exfiltrate or download 40 gig of information. That's precisely why even if XOX are threatening Smartmatic and even uploading comments threatening the public that they're going to expose or upload a sensitive information, until now, ma'am, they have failed to fulfill their threat. Because if you're going to base on the logs that Smartmatic provided, talagang 4 gig lang po. Inisa-isa ho namin yung mga PDF files, tapos yung JPEG files, 4 gig lang po ang na-download no former employee. And
Yes,
again,
Mr.
ma'am,
Lorenzo, you referred to digital signatures or trademarks left by every hacker or operator in the net. How certain are you that the Iloilo Black Hat is the third hacker who was involved in the COMELEC of 2016?
there are so many circumstances, ma'am, to prove that he was involved. First, when he left the Philippines, he went to Iloilo, and all of a sudden, these things happened in Iloilo. And at that precise moment, he was a member of a group that created a company offering their services for penetration testing, vulnerability assessment. So those coincidences would tell us that he is involved. And at the same time, ma'am, if you're going to compare the XOX, they are actually offering their services to Smartmatic. So those things would tell us that uh, he is actually involved. Of course, these are not the only things, Madam Chair, that we have to prove that he is involved in these two incidents, especially in the 2016 COMELEC hacking.
Okay, I'm not very technical, but is it possible that we merely have a copycat? After all, you said that in 2016, a huge amount of data was actually exfiltrated. However, in 2022, a minute amount of useful data was exfiltrated. So parang hindi naman magkapare-pareho yan.
What we are saying, Madam Chair, is that they have the same modus.
Okay,
So uh, among other details that I could not discuss openly,
okay.
Madam Chair, we are morally convinced that he is really involved with this one because the modus, the approach, the digital signatures or the trademark is there. So
All right.
he could not just resist.
Yes, it, the committee accepts your explanation, and while perhaps there's a lack of time given the closeness of the election date, we will certainly open up another executive session if it becomes necessary to explain these details. In the meantime, is the presentation finished? I have a number of questions. Okay na yan? Okay.
So much. Thanks.
Sige. All right. You submitted to the committee an NBI report based primarily, if not entirely, on Smartmatic employees' testimonies. How does the NBI verify these statements of the employees?
The statements are under oath, Madam Chair, and they were able to walk through us on the processes that they have. And we even communicated with their lead IT in Panama, and they have explained the process, the security that are being implemented on the Smartmatic side. And of course, Your Honor,
Wouldn't Smartmatic be considered a conflicted source of information? Shouldn't we make an effort to find other sources of information, further testimony, other evidence?
ma'am, we also conducted, we attempted to extract other information, outside information from Smartmatic. For example, if XOX is claiming that they have
Hindi, pero sabi
exfiltrated.
mo, from Smartmatic pa rin. Wala ba kayong ibang ebidensya?
Ma'am, ang ano lang namin, tinitingnan lang namin as if we had indicated in the report. Tiningnan ho din namin yung mga cyber operators at the same time. Those artifacts floating over the internet. In fact, the ICT, Colonel Araw-Araw, also provided us all those artifacts that they have collected.
Okay.
And we also did our collection works, your Madam Chair, just to get information outside Smartmatic, offline and online. But uh, we must we must believe the explanation of Smartmatic, and at the same time, uh, they were able to explain their facilities with us. And considering that everything is under oath, Madam Chair, we must abide by the statements of Smartmatic.
Okay, but I didn't need the NBI for that. I could have just picked up the phone and asked Smartmatic kung ganun lang yung investigasyon. Anyway, this incident has been reported many months ago, and as early as February 2, we were in possession of a sworn affidavit with a complete interview by your officers of Mr. Argana. Why did it take the NBI more than 2 months to obtain and execute a search warrant for Mr. Argana's residence, thereby resulting, predictably enough, in his absence and a virtual clean out of the premises?
Uh, Your Honor, considering that some witnesses are in Panama and the challenge in traveling to the Philippines, we have to hurdle that. We have to align the schedule of the judge where we are applying for the search warrant.
Di ba
And
probable cause lang naman para mag-investiga? Para sa search warrant, hindi naman kailangan ng 10,000 na testigo mula sa kasulok-sulukan ng mundo.
Madam Chair, we have attempted to apply for a search warrant in the absence of the one who extracted all the logs. But the judge still insisted that he must interview online the one who has personal knowledge in extracting the logs.
Okay,
So,
this person of interest, do you have any updates on his whereabouts? Has the Bureau of Immigration indicated that he has left the country, for example? Is there a record?
Madam Chair, hindi pa ho siya umaalis.
Hindi pa siya
May I-
umaalis,
hindi po.
nagtatago pa lang sa Pilipinas. Okay. May sinasabi rin tungkol sa laptop, sinoli daw, pero encrypted, kaya hindi na mabasa. Tama ba yun?
That's correct, Madam Chair. We have imaged the laptop and we tried to use our tools to extract the information. But when he returned the laptop, it's already encrypted, Your Honor.
Okay. We are now apprised of 720 counts of illegal access and one count of data interference. Is that correct?
We have already filed the case for illegal access, Madam Chair,
Okay.
and we are about to file for systems interference within this week, Your Honor.
It's not data interference, it's systems interference. Is that a different issue?
Data interference
Kasi yun ang
systems.
nakasulat eh. May pinagkaiba ba yung data interference at saka systems interference?
May I consult Attorney Panotes on the definition of terms, Madam Chair?
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Yes, good morning. You recognize Mr. Panotes.
As Madam Chair, data interference refers to the reckless or intentional alteration of digital files,
Okay.
whereas systems interference refers to alteration of a system in such a way as would render it unusable or damaged. In this case, we recommended the filing of data interference because I believe the computer itself would still be usable if it would be installed with a different hard drive or a different OS, for example.
That's
But
right.
the files itself were rendered unreadable because of the actions of Mr. Argana.
Yes, that's right. That's what I have in my dossier, data interference, not systems interference. In any case, moving forward, this being an investigation in aid of legislation, what can the NBI suggest to prevent similar incidents or perhaps further investigate what you believe not to be a crime committed by a single individual, but that you allege is a syndicate, a cybercrime hacking syndicate. You already mentioned the fact that it took you forever to get a search warrant, and you had to produce copious amounts of evidence. Um, is there any suggestion you'd like to make to this committee? Changes in the law, perhaps in the long term, or even further action in the short term?
Uh, Madam Chair, we have challenges in identifying commercial courts and cyber courts because there are limited of them. If
Mhm.
the Congress or Senate can influence the Supreme Court to appoint more judges to handle cybercrime cases, the law enforcement will be very appreciative of that, Madam Chair.
Yes, we worry about the word influence, but certainly we understand the direction of your suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Lorenzo.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think it's time to urge Smartmatic to come forward and answer some of the allegations made by the NBI in its presentation. So we recognize Attorney Lim and close the question. The time that you noticed the unusual traffic, conducted the administrative proceeding, how long did it take to trace the illegal access? Kasi di ba sabi, December 28, yung unusual traffic took place na napakadaming download, 726 logs in 6 days. And napakarami nun, imposibleng iisang tao. Kaya lang, si Mr. Argana was confronted only in January 12. It took Smartmatic 10 days or more to trace the illegal access. Ang tagal naman yan. Parang hindi naman siya real-time or digitally propelled.
Uh, Thank you, Your Honor, for allowing us the opportunity to respond. No? First of all, Your Honor, I would like to make certain corrections to the presentation of the NBI. No? This is minor corrections, it's harmless. No? We'd like to put on record that the date that Mr. Argano was hired was August 11, not August 9. We also like to put on record that on January 14, Mr. Argano was not terminated, but rather he was put on preventive suspension.
I'm
January
sorry, I
14.
didn't catch the date.
Sorry, Your Honor. January 14, 2022. In the report, it said that he was terminated. The truth of the matter being that he was put on preventive suspension. He was terminated on January 21, and his end of contract was supposed to be January 31 of 2022. Now, second also, Your Honor, we'd like to...
Ang problema, mas matagal pa yun.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, we'd like to put on record that it was on January 9 that the unusual traffic was detected. Then it was on January 10 that it was identified, the IP address was identified to be that of Mr. Argana. So 1 day, Your Honor. Then on January 12, that's when he was interviewed by the HR, Ms. Diana White, and Counsel Chandler Molina. That's January 12. But before that, as a matter being obligated to the Commission on Elections, having signed a non-disclosure agreement, on January 11, the Smartmatic immediately informed Commissioner Casquejo regarding the incident, Your Honor, on January 11. On January 12, that was the conference. Then, with the admission, Your Honor, preparation of document, that's when on January 14, the first notice, as well as the preventive suspension, was issued to Mr. Argana, Your Honor. That's the sequence of the events, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you very much, Attorney Lim. And we know of your vast experience in COMELEC and are fully aware of the variety of these matters. This is the first that the committee hears of the report of Smartmatic to COMELEC that in fact there was a data breach because we had two previous hearings before March during which any unusual incidents were denied utterly by COMELEC. It's a mere observation, not a question. What changes, therefore, has Smartmatic since January instituted to prevent a similar data breach?
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, Your Honor, in terms of screening of people, Your Honor, we have adopted a more stringent approach in terms of screening of people. Um, we are also looking at the possibility of conducting, using former law enforcement to conduct background checks on people that may be hired for the future, Your Honor. Second, Your Honor, we have classified our information. Uh, wherein levels of access are determined only by positions, Your Honor. So, like if you are a project employee, there's be very limited access allowed.
Yes, we were quite shocked by the fact that the contractual employee hired just a few months before the download and extraction had access to so much in the Santa Rosa warehouse. Is that usual practice?
Yes, Your Honor, considering the term of the project, Your Honor. He was hired in relation to the software contract won by Smartmatic in the bidding, Your Honor, and that would technically end with the final trusted build of the software, Your Honor.
Given that said Argano signed an NDA with the company Smartmatic and he has clearly violated the same, what actions, if any, has Smartmatic instituted against him?
We have cooperated with the National Bureau of Investigation, Your Honor, and in fact, all the affidavits they requested of us, including the right to file the case for illegal access, we have prepared these affidavits. Aside from that, Your Honor, we are contemplating also a civil case for damages against Mr. Argana, Your Honor.
So both the criminal charges as well as damages have been filed, is that
Yes,
correct?
we are contemplating on the damages aspect, Your Honor.
Wala pa yung damages?
Wala pa po.
Okay. So I think I saw in the report that the NBI had a request to Smartmatic to provide an itemized report on each post of the XSOS occurring in the Smartmatic assets. Has that been provided?
Yeah, we have an idea of certain posts, Your Honor. You would want me to verify certain posts?
I think the NBI made such a request. I saw it in their report
Okay.
that
We're still
that in
verifying,
each
Your
post
Honor.
of the XSOS Smartmatic,
Mhm.
if they could, please give an itemized report to the NBI. Is my understanding correct? Because if there will be such a report, the committee would like a copy, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, we sent them an official request to make a comment on all the posts made by XSOX and all the artifacts
Oo.
retrieved by DICT as well as the NBI.
O tama, yun po yung nabasa ko. So Attorney Lim, ibig sabihin, palibasa hindi pa na ninyo naririnig, mukhang wala pang sagot.
Wala pa, Your Honor. We're still reviewing the request, the requested files, Your Honor, because the files were provided to us in hard copy.
Uh-huh.
So we have to check every line of that file. So it's like looking at a needle in a haystack, Your Honor. It's unlike if you have a digital file that we can easily jump and access to, you can easily compare, but this one's being a hard copy, you have to compare it with a digital file, each and every line, Your Honor. So we ask indulgence of this committee to for time, no, to respond to the NBI's request, Your Honor. But we will definitely respond to that, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Lorenzo, I'm sure you take note of the request that it be submitted digitally rather than in hard copy.
In digital format,
Sabi
Madam
po
Chair.
ni Attorney Lim.
It's PDF, so we have to print out and we have to look out. It's not like as if it's the automatic link, so we can automatically check if there's been alteration of the files.
Madam Chair, kasi yung mga iba deleted na take down kasi yung ibang post ng
Oo,
XSOX. Then we were able to just make a screenshot copy of those posts, Madam Chair.
Sige.
Because-
To the best of your ability, please provide said report in any case. Thank you, Mr. Lorenzo. Isa na lang, yung huli na lang. Kasi sinabi ng NBI na maliwanag na hindi mag-isa si Argana. Imposible daw niya magawa na mag-isa. So the implication, therefore, is that there are other Smartmatic employees who may be black hats, who may be hacking COMELEC and other vital information. Um, Are there any efforts on the part of Smartmatic to investigate your employees, possibly more contractuals of access to Santa Rosa and other COMELEC destinations?
Actually, Your Honor, we are more stringently monitoring the traffic of the internet servers now as compared to before to determine if there are any unusual activity. In terms of people giving access, right now we have scaled our operations in Santa Rosa warehouse. We're just about 181 people already from Smartmatic in the Rosa warehouse, down from I think previous high of almost 500 people. So we have limited access no, of these people to the COMELEC, Your Honor, and under warehouse, Your Honor.
In the process of cutting down from over 500 employees to the 121 people that you have remaining in Santa Rosa, were you suspicious of the action of these 380 odd employees? Is that why you terminated or removed them from the premises?
We did not remove them, Your Honor, because of the data breach. It's just that we're scaling now operations, Your Honor, because we're closer now to elections. So now most of the machines are being dispatched. So there's really no need to have that much people already in the warehouse, Your
I see. So it was just a natural cycle of work.
Honor. Your Honor.
But we have no way of knowing that these 500 people or 121 people remaining are actually not allied in any way with Mr. Argana, your past employee.
We can speak of absolutes in the world, Your Honor. Yes, we agree.
Sorry?
We agree that there's really no absolute way to determine if any of the personnel left is allied or conspires with Mr. Argana. But we are constantly monitoring their actions, Your Honor.
Yes, that being the case, since there's no assurance that the 121 people and employees of Smartmatic in Santa Rosa um, cannot be absolutely cleared of conspiracy with Mr. Argana, shouldn't we continue the investigation among Smartmatic employees? I mean, at least within the corporation. After all, you do have a MOA with COMELEC, and there's definitely a covenant of trust to the people.
There's definitely a continuing evaluation of the security systems, Your Honor, within the company.
Yes. How do we evaluate that aside from the unusual traffic that is monitored? Or do we have safeguards in place, for example, that issue computers and laptops are no longer taken out? Are there security efforts?
One thing is that before when we issued the laptops, it was on a honesty basis that you're not allowed to bring the laptops home. Now we're more stringent at monitoring that you really leave your laptops in the office or in the warehouse. No? So those are little security things that could matter a lot in the long run.
Is there anything more that we can do? It's very discomfiting for all of us. The elections are a mere 3 weeks away, and still we cannot be assured that Smartmatic's employees are on the up and up.
Okay. And second, also, Your Honor, Smartmatic employees are not allowed access except to repair
Mhm.
the machines that are being subject. They have parts, they have the tools to repair the machines for because of the refurbishment contract. They are not allowed inside the configuration room. That's where the data, that's where churns out the SD cards containing the precinct and the canvassing configuration. Smartmatic employees are not allowed access to that, Your Honor. In fact, they're not even allowed to go near the personnel of the COMELEC performing the pre pre-lat. No, they're not allowed to go near the employees. They just have a certain station, and we have a certain room where our people are based. No? But our access is very limited in the warehouse, Your Honor.
With all due respect, we were very troubled by the fact that a contractual employee of a mere 3 months was allowed in and out of the Santa Rosa premises. That no longer occurs. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Attorney Commissioner Lim of Smartmatic, and perhaps you can go to COMELEC. COMELEC has manifested before that it's going to study the possible sanctions it can impose against Smartmatic. I know you've been in discussion with Smartmatic. What is the result of that study, for example? Chairman Pangarunan already explained to us in the last hearing and executive session that he was determined to uphold that contract with Smartmatic. I believe you had an unbanked resolution shortly after the hearing in March, indicating that your legal department would study the contract for possible sanctions against Smartmatic if necessary.
Magandang umaga po, Madam Chair. Right after the last Senate hearing that we attended at Ilustrado, Intramuros, we directed our law department to study the contracts that we have with Smartmatic and to find out what extent of actions that we can take against Smartmatic. Of course, the recommendation of the law department is that if there is a violation of the contract, namely unsatisfactory and or unfaithful performance by Smartmatic of its obligations to provide automated election system or contact with partisan organization or group or violation of the obligations on confidentiality and or violation of the Data Privacy Act, we have certain courses of action. And the courses of action recommended would be one, termination of the contract and possible blacklisting. Two, forfeiture of performance security. Three, damages pursuant to the Data Privacy Act and the Civil Code of the Philippines. And four, filing of criminal cases pursuant to the Data Privacy Act. So far, we have not taken any of this step except to withhold payment to Smartmatic. I have not signed the voucher for the payment to Smartmatic in amount of 90 million pursuant to our contract because we want to clear this matter about this leakage by Mr. Argana of some data. So it is the recommendation of the law department to wait for the official investigation report of the NBI in order for the commission to be in a better position to assess the extent of the breach and the proper course of action to take.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for your constant and consistent cooperation with this committee. I am not suggesting by any means that the breach in data is tantamount to a breach in contract. However, you did mention that you have withheld payment. Payment with regard to which part of the contract, sir?
I think that is the third payment that we are supposed to pay Smartmatic in the amount of 90 million pesos.
I see. So that has been withheld. When was it due?
I think it was due in early March.
I see. That being the case, when will it be released? What conditions do they have to comply with before they are paid completely?
Once we are convinced that Smartmatic is innocent about this leakage of data.
In that case, this will not cause undue delay.
I don't think so, Madam Chair.
Hey, any comment from Smartmatic, the attorney here, Attorney Lim?
We definitely acknowledge there was payments have not been forthcoming to the company. But we are cooperating in every way possible with the Commission on Elections, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you very much, and I hope this does not cause any untoward delays. The election is so near. Um, to date, the only sanction or penalty that can be imposed, the only remedy of the COMELEC against the Smartmatic, let's say alleged negligence, for example, is merely to withhold payment. No further sanctions or remedies are available to COMELEC. Perhaps we should look at contract in the future.
Yes, Madam Chair, as I intimated earlier, the recommendation of our law department is to wait for the official report of the National Bureau of Investigation before we take any of the courses of action that we have.
Yes, I understand. Is there a need to amend the the automated election law to require the AES provider to submit a report to COMELEC and JCO when an incident or breach or a systems interference is observed within a predetermined period of time? Baka kailangan maglagay tayo ng provision na ganun.
We will study that, Madam Chair.
And that the provider should show that its systems, its protocols are safe and secure over the long period of the election and the campaign. So that if it cannot secure its own system, how can we be confident that the systems it provides COMELEC is safe and secure?
Yes, Madam Chair. We will study all these options. But as the election is coming near, because of the proximity of the election, it is not wise to take any drastic action against Smartmatic that might prejudice the conduct of the elections in May 9.
Yes, tama po, Mr. Chair, at hindi naman po NBI ang Senado, kundi in aid of legislation. Kaya naghahanap kami ng paraan kung paano malulutas, masusolusyonan itong mga butas, ika nga, sa kontrata natin sa Smartmatic at hindi na po maulit. At napakahalaga po nitong sistema na ito. So, kung may mga suggestion po yung iba't ibang grupo rito, siguro ipag-alam na natin kay Chairman, bukas naman ang isipan ng ating chairman, pati yung abogado ng Smartmatic, para itong mga insidente ito ay maibsan na sa hinaharap. Okay, maraming salamat po sa COMELEC, pero matindi pa rin ang kaba natin lahat dahil mismo yung Smartmatic at yung COMELEC nagsasabi na kung minsan o kumbaga hindi rin natin masasabi na talagang kumpiyansa sila sa kanilang empleyado, sa mga sistema at sa iba't iba't pang patakaran. May konting nervous po, pero tulong-tulong na lang po tayong lahat at hawak kamay sa pagdaraos ng isang malinis at malayang halalan. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Are there any further questions regarding the data breach alleged in the Manila Bulletin article and investigated by the NBI? Attorney Ivan Uy, I think, has some questions. We recognize Attorney Uy.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Well, I just want to ask Mr. Lorenzo of the NBI, with 720 accesses over a 6-day period, they were only able to download 4 gigabytes of data.
That's accurate, sir.
Okay. Yes.
With the indulgence of the chairperson, we just clarified the 726 marked as logins. They're not accesses as in you put in your password and you access a site. No, it's not that. You're already in the site. You just, let's say, download a link, download a document. That's counted as one. It's like more of counted as hits. So the 726 is more of hits rather than accesses. So we just want to disabuse that because it might give an impression that there were like probably 726 people who went in the site. No, it's just probably maybe more than one or one, but you just had time to really, go through the site, access certain documents there. Sir, thank you.
A second question is addressed to COMELEC. Considering that Smartmatic, who has already extensive experience in providing automated elections for so many years, and they were breached. Their system was breached by this. How about COMELEC? Has COMELEC set up its cyber defenses, so to speak, as well as the capacity of the employees in order to handle or to prevent something like this from happening to COMELEC? Thank you po.
Yes, anyone from COMELEC is urged to respond to the question of Attorney Uy.
May I refer this to our chairman of the steering committee, Commissioner Pasquio?
Yes, Commissioner
Yes, thank
Casquejo,
you.
you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regards to that, to the response of the query of Ivan Uy, our system is not in any way connected to the cyber world or in the internet. So that is why when that incident happened, it was reported to us. That was corrected on January 11. It was reported to us that there were hacking incident, which happens to be, they are saying that comes from the COMELEC. So we make sure that we acted on it, and then we immediately went to the NBI to seek for their expertise regarding this one. And we are quite sure that there is no cyber attack in our system because in the first place in Santa Rosa, it's not connected in internet. So with that, we double our security, physical security, even if we are quite very sure that wala pong nakuha sa amin. But then again, we double our security, our employees. Only regular employees are allowed inside the configuration room. No casual or no job orders can access to that system. And we have this so-called two password before you can enter into our data in our system that is handled by two supervisors, by two director force. So even in 2016 and even past elections, ganun po yung system ng aming COMELEC when it comes to the preparation of elections. So we just make sure that our securities, our facility are well secured para wala pong makapasok and then get some information of that our data center.
Someone's raising his hand. I'm sorry, I can't see your nameplate. Please identify yourself, sir, so that you can be recognized by the chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is humble representation is Ray Bulay, Commissioner Ray. Bulay.
Commissioner Ray Bulay, sorry, I haven't met you before. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. May I have the floor, please?
Yes, please proceed,
Yeah.
Commissioner.
Yeah, and the question of the good gentleman from the DFA. It might a PPCRB.
He's an IT expert who has worked with the Senate.
Okay, so in order to place the answer in in your perspective, I believe your question is how the COMELEC will train its people with respect to the Smartmatic contract. It might interest you to know that the contract with Smartmatic between COMELEC is the procurement of a software for the development of an election management system for the BCM and for the CCS. So, since COMELEC contracted that work with Smartmatic, we expect delivery of what we ordered, what we paid for in behalf of the Republic to its specified request. So basically, with respect to that, Smartmatic delivers well. In fact, we've tried them And we've also checked them with respect to the international market. So since the contract we're talking about came before our time, most of the commissioners before our time, we certainly have some provisions to introduce, not at this point, but in the later elections to come. So we assure you that our people in the COMELEC know their job and know what to expect with respect to the output it paid for in its contract with COMELEC. I hope, Madam Chair, that answers the question. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Yes, maraming salamat kay Commissioner Casquejo, kay Commissioner Bulat. Pasensya po, hindi ko kayo nakilala. Attorney Oy, sapat na ba yung mga kasagutan ng ating COMELEC?
Well, Madam Chair, yeah, ang concern ko po is it's not just the contractual relationship with the provider, no, but internally inside the organization, what are the IT security or cybersecurity competencies that have been developed within the organization. For instance, Smartmatic has their own cybersecurity. I'm sure have their own cybersecurity people. The one that Mr. Lorenzo interviewed, who's in Panama, who was the one who extracted the log files. So, do we have that kind of personnel in COMELEC? And if so, what are their credentials? Have they been properly trained? Are there procedures that have already been set in place when there is a suspected breach? How does the COMELEC respond to this, whether it's an external breach or an internal one? How do you detect those breaches? Are the log files kept in a secure location? Can a hacker delete those log files if they want to escape any detection? So I understand that many government agencies severely lack this kind of capability. So, but with COMELEC as a constitutional body, which is charged with holding the national and local elections, a very, very important exercise and responsibility, has its cyber security and capabilities been raised to the level of at least best practices in the world?
Yes, Commissioner Casquejo.
Yes, as I confer with the ITD director, they have several trainings, one in Singapore for the cyber security. And we are still on the process of procuring a cyber security consultant, which is hindi pa po na-procure. And when it comes to sa PNB. And then when it comes to the technology or the AES software that we procured from the Smartmatic, it's part of the contract that there will be a technology transfer of software so that when we will use this system again for another elections or special elections, so there is no need for the Smartmatic to come in because we already know how to operate this software because the COMELEC already owns the software and including the machine itself, the vote counting machines. So we have trainings, Madam Chair, and maybe after elections there will be a series of trainings for cybersecurity. We have scheduled for that, and hopefully we can procure now the cybersecurity consultant regarding this one, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Casquejo. We're reassured by the efforts of COMELEC to update our systems to the state-of-the-art IT level. I read in the newspaper that COMELEC also embarked on a MOA with the DICT, establishing a cloud-first policy. Does this in any way help us with cybersecurity? Because the article in the newspaper did not indicate what the contents of the MOA was, but we would like to hear a little bit about this cloud first policy. May DICT po ba ngayon? COMSEC? Oy, andito pala si Secretary Kaintik and anyone from COMELEC. Pwede naman nating ibida ng konti itong bagong MOA.
Good morning, Madam Chair. The MOA that we signed with COMELEC just recently was focused on hosting the web services that will be accessed by the voters, specifically the precinct finder and the election results. So
Oh, I
those two
see.
systems only po, ma'am, will be hosted by the DICT managed cloud services. So specifically only for those efforts.
Oh, I see, I see. In any case, that helps us at least with publicity and the storage of files. Kaya pala cloud first. Pero it does not help us with cybersecurity.
Madam Chair,
Just convenient
we are
as
not,
the-
we are not handling the cybersecurity of the election efforts itself proper. Only for the precinct finder and the election results.
I see, because I recall that the ICT as well as the NPC were requiring certain information derived from this data breach in several hearings in the past. So I thought that perhaps you had something to do with that as well.
Madam Chair, we asked for that in observance of to the Data Privacy Act. Particularly, I've instructed the NPC to look into any possible breaches of any personal information pertaining to the actual breach po.
Has that issue been settled between the Privacy Commission and COMELEC? I think Attorney Santos, your group, your agency was actually requesting documents that were, at least as far as the COMELEC and other groups were concerned, in actual violation of the privacy you are committed to protect. Is that settled now?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. As far as the case is concerned, we've submitted our fact-finding report to our commissioners, and they will ask the parties, COMELEC and Smartmatic, to file their reply and submit documents in relation to the report, Your Honor.
I recall Commissioner Casquejo had trouble with complying with some of your information requests. Has that been settled, Commissioner?
Madam Chair, I go over with their request. They are asking for something like outside the data privacy or personal information of a voter or an individual. It's more on the operation of the EMS, the topography of the transmission,
Yes.
and there's no personal information in that, Madam Chair.
Okay. So
So,
nagkasundo na kayo sa madaling sabi.
yes, yes, Madam Chair. For as long as they are asking for any personal informations that we gather from voters or any individuals, then we're willing to comply. But this time, it's more on a something like a diagram of the system, which we have some violations. We might violate some any data, any uh, confidentiality of the system because it's more on the diagram, the architecture. So,
So, Commissioner, with all due respect, so mali ako, hindi pa kayo nagkakasundo?
hindi naman, Madam Chair, nakakasundo
Hindi,
naman.
kasi hindi yung
Oo.
tungkol sa submission, sabi ninyo yung topography and the flow and the operations manuals that are being requested cannot be provided. Is that correct?
For some security reasons, Madam Chair, because it involves now the system of the transmission and some other security risks might be compromised, Madam Chair. But any information related to data privacy of personal informations, we are very much willing. We can even open the system of our uh, data center, which happens to be holding informations of our voters nationwide, so that they can check whether there's a breach on that system or not. Because it involves personal information, Madam Chair.
So, Attorney Santos, tanggap ba ninyo yung mga limitasyon na sinasaad ni Commissioner Casquejo?
We note the manifestation of Commissioner Casquejo and we will revise accordingly.
Okay, thank you very much. In which case, if you couldn't provide some kind of closure on that issue, because it was raised in previous hearings as well. I'm just curious if you will allow me to go back to Secretary Kaintik, Manny. Sabi mo, wala kayong kinalaman sa cybersecurity measures ng eleksyon. Pero sinabi rin ninyo sa mga nakaraang hearing na yung cyber initiatives ng DICT ay tulong para sa COMELEC. So beyond the cloud first policy, beyond the posting and uploading all the information necessary to voters, beyond managing the COMELEC website, which was mentioned previously, ano po ang mga cyber initiatives ng DICT para sa eleksyon na ito?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are covered with what's only based on the memorandum of agreement po. And although we have various cybersecurity offerings that we offer to other government agencies in observance to the independence of the COMELEC, unless it was asked for, and specifically in this case, they only asked for the hosting. And of course, subsequently, we have to make sure that that's secure.
So wala kayong kinalaman sa cybersecurity. Ang
That-
COMELEC nag-aaral pa sa cybersecurity. Ang Smartmatic kinakabahan rin sa security. Paano pa ba ang ating lagay?
Our services are for COMELEC to consider po, ma'am. And we can offer that as part of our services po. If they wish an entire operations audit or cybersecurity audit, we are more than willing to conduct that. That is if COMELEC will ask that from us po. Thank you po.
Okay, so to our COMELEC commissioners, most of all our chairman, we have a volunteer here. Secretary Kaintik is volunteering to help in any way. Thank you very much for that. In the meantime, may I also recognize the CICC, who is finally represented by you, Cesar Mancao. Your absence was observed by many of the senators during the executive session. I also recognize Director Rose Magsaysay, Ms. Bettina Kimson, Mr. Jeff D., and Attorney Hubert Guevara, all on virtual. So, Yusek Mancao, is there anything you'd like to add to this discussion about the data breach now that you are here?
Yes, Madam Chair. Magandang umaga po sa lahat. Sa inyo po at sa members ng Joint Congressional Oversight Committee, sa mga senador na nasa online, at sa iba pang mga distinguished resource persons. Magandang umaga po sa lahat. On behalf of the Cybercrime Investigation Coordinating Center, an attached agency of the ICT, I would like to express our deepest appreciation and gratitude for inviting us to participate in today's hearing, although in allowing our agency to expose also our position with regard to the sensitive issue confronting our country, the Philippines, that could potentially impact the forthcoming 2022 national and local elections. As the lead agency responsible for monitoring and performing all matters related to cybercrime prevention and suppression, the CICC is in unison to the committee's serious endeavor to ensure a fair, orderly, transparent, accurate, and credible electoral processes. Before going to the merits of my statement, Madam Chair, I earnestly ask the understanding of your committee relative to the executive session held last March 17, as manifested by my representative present during the said meeting, that I was in Lyon, France, attending the 38th operational meeting of the Interpol specialist group on crimes against children. Now, with regard to our agency's official position on the resolution submitted by several lawmakers regarding election-related issues, it must be noted that CICC is mandated to lead the government's effort in safeguarding our citizens, institutions, and country from the risks and threats of cybercrime. Thus, CICC, pursuant to its mandate and pronouncement of the President to ensure a free, honest, orderly, peaceful, and credible election, took a positive and proactive approach to be part of the solution rather than the problem. As part of our proactive approach, try to orient ourselves regarding the frameworks of our automated elections and possibly offer some recommendations to COMELEC. Also, to support such CICC initiative, we conceptualized the creation of a technical working group primarily intended to look into the issue of cyber-related election offenses. Purpose and intention of the TWG is to render assistance or submit recommendations to the COMELEC Advisory Council. It was established and created pursuant to RA 9369 and is chaired by the Secretary of the ICT. While our budget was merely 11 million for fiscal year 2021, we find that budgetary constraints should not deter us from performing our mandate. The technical working group, dubbed as TWG for Election Watch, was created in the last quarter of 2021. And initially, they studied how our automated election system, voting counting machines, command and control systems were designed and put into action in relation to the 2022 national election.
Sorry, Yusek, with all due respect, do you have anything to add to the discussion that has already transpired? Is there anything the CICC can contribute or assist in the May 9 election to provide further safety and security of the vote?
Yes, Your Honor.
Po yun.
More of knowing the fact that all systems are all in place, all the COMELEC and the Smartmatic, we've heard from official statements that they're good to go. But again, knowing that the computer is not 100% safe, but still is vulnerable, and there are people behind it that are still with intentions to disrupt or rig the election processes. We we have efforts on that matter, and we continue to do that. You know, for a fact, according to our IT expert here, that there should be more IT or professionals to look into the system, especially on the transmission, and that we know for a fact that there is a problem in there in that aspect, Your Honor.
Thank you. Yes, Secretary Kaintik, please.
I was just reminded, thank you, Madam Chair. I was just reminded by my chief of staff that last January we sent a letter to COMELEC Commissioner Casquejo, the chair of the ICT Steering Committee, offering our mobile security operations center to be attached to the election system to monitor any untoward traffic and cyber threats
Sorry.
real time.
A mobile IT?
Mobile Security Operations
Sorry,
Center.
mobile.
It's a system. Mobile Security Operations Center. Mobile Security Operations Center.
Okay.
MSOC. We sent a letter last January for that. So they offer to monitor any cyber threats actively through the network is there. So that offer is there, ma'am, and we'll just wait for any feedback on that. But we are more than willing to participate if the COMELEC wishes it so.
Okay, so Commissioner Casquejo, once again, I think Secretary Kaintik is offering his mobile security operations, which I'm sure we'd all be grateful to have. Kayo po.
Yes,
January pa daw niya sinubmit.
yes, Madam Chair, we take note of that, but I have to look over with the email if we receive that on January. But that is a good suggestion and we welcome that, Madam Chair. We need that one, Madam Chair.
Oo, lahat tayo medyo buko-buko yung IT natin, kaya pagtulungan na lamang. Attorney Uy, yes, I hope this is the final question. I have to proceed to two other matters.
Yes, Madam Chair. Well, actually, just to segue on Secretary Kaintik's recommendation on that mobile security facility, I think that's very, very timely because we're very concerned when we recently found out that the transmission protocols that's going to be used by COMELEC this time, we will not be able to track the IP address source because they're moving to 4G from 3G. Whereas in the past elections, whenever transmissions from the VCM are made, we know exactly where the location of the VCM is and which particular VCM, as identified by its dongle, its SIM card, as well as the identity of the VCM, can be identified. This time, it would seem that most of those features will no longer be there, and therefore we won't be able to track where the transmissions are coming from. If this is correct observation, I think the solution of the ICT in providing that mobile security would be able to solve that issue. But I'd like to ask the COMELEC if that is the case. Thank you very much.
Yes, is anyone prepared to respond
Yes, Madam
to
Chair.
the query that transmission will no longer include IP addresses?
Uh, with regards to the suggestion first with the DICT, this coming Thursday we'll be having a PMO steering committee with meeting with together with CAC, and we will discuss this matter so that we can implement this one in our transmission. But for now, Madam Chair, I was informed by the head of the field operation group, the transparency, headed by Dedo Elnas. There's an ongoing meeting with the PNP and AFP with regards to the cybersecurity of the transmission on election day. But with the suggestion also of the ICT to help monitor also to track off with regards to the transmission, we will talk about it this coming Thursday, and I will recommend it to the NBank if it's feasible or not, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you very much. All hands on deck. Magtulungan na lang tayo dito dahil napakalapit na ng ating halalan at gusto natin talaga ng isang bukas, malaya at buong eleksyon. So with that, I'd like to close the discussion on this. May I simply request from Attorney Lim one final paper, please?
Yeah.
I'm fully aware that you made a press statement that there was certainly only one Smartmatic employee involved with Argana and the XSOF. You have
Yes, Your Honor.
heard that.
Let me emphasize, Your Honor, that as understood by the common layman, there is no hacking. No, hacking as understood as an intrusion or penetration by a third party. There was no hacking of systems because Mr. Argana had access to this information, which only consisted of internal files, no, like backing up policies. How do you account for information about
Yes,
utilities?
Attorney Lim, that was established at the previous hearing, that there's no hacking.
Yes,
A
Your Honor.
data breach perhaps occurred. That's all.
What we can say, Your Honor, is we have also prepared a presentation, but if due to the lack of time, we can submit it to the committee. How this has zero impact on the elections, Your Honor. The files accessed by Mr. Argana or the files obtained by Mr. Argana have no impact, have no relation to what the commission is preparing right now or for the elections, Your Honor. It's inherently impossible, Your Honor.
Okay. Yes, so perhaps what I will ask is something more specific on behalf of the NBI and their report. Just some clarification on the 726 logins in 6 days,
Mhm.
which, according to Mr. Lorenzo, is physically impossible for a single employee, and which was later explained to be not logins, but in fact mere hits. Whatever the term is, I would like Smartmatic to please come forward with some kind of explanation to be submitted to the committee by your technical people.
Yes, Your Honor, we will comply with that, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. And with that, let's move on to the complaints that were aired. The issues raised by the different stakeholders, our political parties, our poll watchers, and other registered bodies. So, unang-una, yung daing muna ng committee, committee secretary has the COMELEC provided the addresses of the provincial and regional technical hubs. I think that list was requested, but I don't think I am in receipt until today. May I know if they have been established?
Yes, Madam Chair, the steering committees will be proposing submitting tomorrow the resolution regarding the technical hubs, which consists of the replacement of the SD card and the VCM repair. So it will be a resolution. It will be published once approved by the NBank. That will be submitted tomorrow for NBank's approval or discussion, Madam Chair. So we will implement again the so-called technical hubs, which refers to the replacement of the SD cards once there's a defective SD cards during elections, and we also implement or improvise additional, or we introduce a repair hub of the vote counting machines, because considering that we only have 1,100 contingency machines for the entire, for nationwide. So in the event that there will be a defective VCM, then it can be repaired immediately, kasi in our contract with the provider, it should be brought to the Santa Rosa for the immediate repair. But considering the distance, so we agreed, the provider agreed to have a repair hub, and that will be announced as to the location and as to the manner of how it would be implemented. It will also contain in the resolution. And watchers, political parties are welcome to be watchers or to be there in the present when some officials doing such replacement of SD cards, which will be handled by the ICT and the OST, and the repair hub, which will be handled by the COMELEC officials also, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner, we'll await the addresses. However, certain complaints from the ground have arisen. One of them is that no contingency or spare VCMs have been provided. Only the exact number of VCMs as required by the precincts has been delivered, and that there are no contingency or spare VCMs at all. This has been reported in several regions.
Yes, for now, Madam
Alam
Chair.
kong kulang na kulang talaga. Pero kinakabahan lahat. Pagkat alam naman natin, higit ng 10 taon ang luma nitong mga makinaryang to. They are 12 years old. So if they fell apart in the past, they will be guaranteed to fall apart even more in the near future. So kinakabahan ng lahat kasi walang spare VCM.
Ang naiwan po natin na contingency VCM is only 1,100. So that will be distributed all over the Philippines. And that is why the next remedy that we have, our contingency remedy, is to have a regional repair hub for the VCM repair. In the event that during FTS, there will be defective VCMs, it can be repaired.
Siguro yun din ang ikalawang tanong namin na dahil yun nga, ilan lang naman yung VCM, kaya daw i-repair ng Provincial Technical Hub. Pero ang balita, kapag yung SD card ay nasira, hindi kaya ng provincial, hindi rin daw kaya ng regional, pagkat yun ang sabi nila, at kinakailangan padala na muli, katulad dati, sa Santa Rosa. Tama po ba yun?
Madam Chair, iba na po ngayon. We don't bring the SD card to Santa Rosa, but we have this provincial repair, provincial technical hub for the replacement of the SD card. So the configuration will be done at Santa Rosa Memory Configuration Room, and then it will be downloaded by the DICT and the OST personnel, and it will be saved in the SD card. So ganun na po yung process para po mas mabilis. So
Okay.
instead of having regional, we go
All 13 of them were configured without any witnesses.
Well, for the configuration of the SD card for this election, it was done in Santa Rosa. And when the said SD card is configured, after that one, we have this process of final testing and sealing. So other than final testing and sealing, meron po tayong pre-lot which was also observed during the walkthrough.
Mm-mm.
So kahit na po na on that part, hindi po na-observe yung ating configuration. Kapag sa configuration naman, ang makikita mo lang naman doon is somebody operating the machines, downloading all this data. And the configuration is done by the EMS. So kapag may configuration na po yung EMS, that will be downloaded in the SD cards. Yun lang naman po. And the more efficient way of knowing if it's really configured correctly is through the pre-lot.
Yeah.
And also the
That's right.
final testing and sealing. And also looking at the hash code once you turn on the vote counting machines, there will be a hash code displayed in the vote counting machines.
Yes, but you recall, Commissioner Marlon, there was a protest from many of our poll watchers that you disallowed the observation of SD cards configuration in COMELEC Santa Rosa. But in fact, 53% of the SD cards had already been configured, and there needs to be some kind of random testing. So Attorney Uy at that juncture suggested that the list of the recipient LGUs of said SD cards of the 53% should be provided so they could be randomly tested, pre-logic, accuracy, and so on, should be provided. Yes, I see Commissioner Garcia waving his hand. You are recognized, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, upon the instruction of our chairman of the commission, because immediately after the hearing of this committee, the chairman instructed our ITD to submit to him the list of all the SD cards configured during the time that there were allegedly no watchers. We will provide this committee by tomorrow because the head of our information technology department submitted to the office of the chairman that list. And we will likewise provide this committee the list of the LGUs where the ballots were printed without allegedly the presence of the watchers. So we will provide this committee by tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Garcia. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. That will be a real boon to our poll watchers. I know that not only Attorney Uy, but the PPCRV, the NAMFREL, Lente, and the rest have been very, very concerned about this, in addition to the political parties and their representatives. So are there any comments from the PPCRV? Or the other representatives of the poll watching bodies who are here? I invite you to participate in this discussion. I see Attorney Uy raising his hand, but in the meantime, if there are further questions, I'll be happy to entertain them. And I'm certain that the commissioners also are prepared to do so. Yes, Attorney Uy, please.
Thank you very much again, Madam Chair. Um, Included in the resolution, hopefully by tomorrow, from the COMELEC, not only the presence of the observers in the hubs, but also in the National Technical Support Center. That's the center where all incidents during the elections are reported to COMELEC, and the COMELEC, I think, provides instructions on where those incidents occur and what are the remedies that are being directed. So if that could also be possible to be included in the resolution po. Presence in the National Technical Support Center. Second item po is dashboard. In the past, when we observed the printing at the National Printing Office, we would see that each and every ballot is fed into the VCMs and they pass through the VCMs, thereby assuring us that every ballot fulfills all the security features and the security requirements, and that they are all original ballots. This we were not able to observe for the 67% that were printed without any observers. So I'd like to thank the commission in providing the list of the destination of those ballots. But perhaps we could also get some assurance from the National Printing Office or the one in charge of printing, perhaps a certification under oath that each and every ballots were fed into those VCMs, and indeed that they all pass the qualifications or the requirements of security for every ballot that have been delivered have passed through the quality assurance, and that they all are original ballots that can be read by the VCMs. Thank you po.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Garcia, please.
Thank you very much. When the chairman instructed the one in charge of printing, our Deputy Executive Director for Administration, the chairman likewise instructed her to submit all the details and what is being asked by Attorney Uy. And therefore, when we submit tomorrow the list, including the explanations on each and every areas, then this is a submission addressed to the NBAC, and therefore it carries with it all administrative sanctions possible as far as anything is concerned concerning the list as submitted. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you very much as well. And I think I saw Mr. Alex Ramos online earlier, and I think he filed a report. Are you here? Oh, Alex is here in person. Okay, no wonder you disappeared online. Okay, perhaps you'd like to be recognized and narrate the report that has been filed regarding a harassment incident in the NPO. Um, Even before Mr. Ramos testifies, I would like to ask the COMELEC if watchers are allowed to take note of the destination of the ballots. If not, why not? Are they allowed? Why was one watcher prevented from doing so, such that that watcher was even banned from the NPO the next day? I think you're aware of the incident at the National Printing Office. Maybe somebody from
Yes.
COMELEC or NPO can explain what occurred.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Casquejo,
Yes,
please.
I was informed just this morning regarding this incident for yesterday, Madam Chair. So I talked with the Vice Chair of the NPO this morning to conduct a thorough investigation regarding this access because as per instruction, they are allowed in the viewing deck. So we are conducting an investigation kung saan pumunta yung watchers. Maybe it's not in the viewing deck or maybe somewhere else. So that is why we will have to conduct a thorough investigation. And there are CCTVs in the NPO which we can easily look into kung saan pumunta yung watchers because they are limited only to the viewing deck but not to some other areas. And as to the location, the Packing and Shipping Committee headed by Commissioner Ferulino will be giving information regarding that one as to saan papunta. As to the getting of the information of the ballot ID that is secured ballot ID. So hindi po pwedeng sino-sino lang yung kukuha nun because that indicates the ballot ID of a certain
I see.
municipality or city or cluster precincts. So we will look into that, Madam Chair. We will have an investigation.
Thank
I
you,
will-
Commissioner Casquejo. I received your letter from Vice Chairperson Helen Flores of the COMELEC, indicating that the incident on April 11 at the NPO that involved a certain John Mark Borja, who was an observer advised by COMELEC, COSF, to refrain from copying the details of official ballots being loaded into the truck because the COMELEC instruction was merely to allow the citizens' arms to conduct their observations in the basement viewing room only. Hanggang dun lang. So, tama po ba itong paliwanag?
Tama po, Madam Chair. That is limited only to the viewing deck. Even during our walkthrough, they were informed that they can go inside the NPO but only on the viewing deck, which is located doon po malapit sa printing.
Okay. Maybe we call on Mr. Alex Ramos. Please identify yourself. Have you taken the oath? Okay.
Good morning. Actually, this incident was reported to us uh, on the hour that the observer was sent out of NPO office. In relation to the activities as observers, I believe the COMELEC issued COMELEC Resolution 10740 that says we are allowed to observe all processes. And one of the processes at the NPO is not only the observing of the process of printing and testing. Of course, when you observe in the vicinity, you see other activities. And we adhered to the provision also or the regulation, no recording devices. So if you walk by and you see something, you write it. Doesn't matter uh, what the content is because the observer just writes what they see in and out of the premises. And we're not only recording what is inside the printing office, but also outside. They have loaded, okay, this and much. A number of where ballots were being withdrawn. That those are specific information. Those are not how would you say that, confidential information. So as observers, if the COMELEC would also adhere to that resolution 10740, it's very clear that we can observe anything. And the only way to record an observation is by writing. What happened was that the way the John Mark mentioned was that I think the COMELEC guard went out of bounds by even to the part of tearing his report. Okay, I think that's beyond. And then banning this person, usurping the authority of the embankment. Eh. So these are our observations.
Yes, so understand you file a police report thereafter?
We just ask the persons involved to write the incident report, and it was elevated to the political party to do whatever action will be taken. And we also furnish. I have a copy of the reports. I can furnish the committee here of the reports.
Okay, are you saying, Mr. Ramos, that observation from what they call the basement viewing deck is inadequate?
Definitely, because you only see two procedures. You don't see the procedures when they withdraw the ballots. You don't see the loading in the trucks. And these are just along the way. It's not even a confidential act of COMELEC. This is publicly seen by everyone. Anybody can take notes.
You said that harassment occurred and that the observer was in fact banned from the premises the following day. Is that correct?
They were already inside the room at the time when they were confronted. Oh, I see. So on the way, it's just the outside the viewing deck. You will be able to see in the road. What do you call it? The parking space where the loading is being done. That's where our people were able to observe it. And I see we were never told this. It's a restricted area, but you see when you write a report along the way, even in the sidewalk, if they can do that inside the premises just by me writing, I mean, parang may kulang ata sa observation natin. The process is not complete.
Yes, I received a one paragraph letter from the COMELEC, as I said earlier, Vice Chairman Helen Flores, who says that the fact that the observer was limited to the basement viewing room and violated this limitation is sufficient explanation of the incident. Is this sufficient explanation in fact, or should we not conduct a little bit more of an investigation?
Madam Chair, may we request the Vice Chairperson to answer the question?
Oh, if she's here, we
Yes.
recognize her. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and everyone. Madam Chair, first of all, the explanation was an initial explanation from the point of view or perspective of the printing committee, Madam Chair. As mentioned by Commissioner Casquejo, there is also another committee for the packing and shipping. which is chaired by Commissioner Ferrolino. So in deference to that committee, Madam Chair, and that incident was actually connected already to a process that is a part of the packing and shipping. We could not yet, as of this time, give an explanation on the incident. We are only saying that as far as the printing committee is concerned, what was agreed upon is that observation of the printing process may only be done in the viewing deck. However, Madam Chair, please know that this isolated incident where a guard is involved is now being investigated. In fact, we are asking the guard from where did he get that authority to ban a political observer. We are actually demanding an explanation from the COMELEC guard, Madam Chair.
Okay, we've all heard of overzealous guards, but may I ask the fundamental question? Tapos na ba yung shipping and packing?
Ongoing pa po, Madam Chair.
Hanggang kailan yan bago matapos?
Director Hernan is here, Madam Chair. He is in charge of the packing and shipping.
Yes, may we just be updated on the present status of said packing and distribution?
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Oo, patapos na ba kayo o kailan matatapos yung...
Actually, Your Honors, if I may be allowed to
Yes, please.
at least give a brief a summary of the monitoring on our preparatory activities, not just for the official ballots, Your Honor, if I may.
Sorry, this has to do with the ballots?
Not just the ballot, but all election-related equipment, Your Honor.
Yung balota muna tinatanong ko
Okay, sir.
natin kasi NPO po yung incident na rin-report ni Mr. Ramos.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tapos yung balota, yung pagpapadala sa iba't ibang probinsya ng
Ah.
bansa.
Actually, Your Honor, the dispatch of the official ballots is yet to commence. Per our order and schedule of dispatch, as published in the newspaper of general circulation, as well as posted in the COMELEC website, we will start with the dispatch of official ballots tomorrow, April
Tapos,
20.
kailan matatapos?
And it will end on May 5, Your Honor.
Okay, so tuloy-tuloy pa rin ito. We have to finally decide certain questions. Kanina, si Vice Chair, sabi niya, sapat na yung basement viewing deck. Sabi ni Mr. Ramos, hindi sapat. Hanggang May 5 tayo mag-iringan ito. Siguro dapat pag-usapan na natin. Vice Chair, this apparently will be going on till May 5. Anong tingin ninyo?
Madam Chair, I think if I may suggest, since COMELEC and Bank issued Resolution 10740, can COMELEC, the NPO people, adhere to the contents of this COMELEC resolution? Can their regulations, their guidelines be in sync with this resolution? Because it's supposed to give unabated, free access to observing. You're not supposed to be curtailing.
Okay, so I'd have to call Vice Chair Helen again. Sa palagay mo ba, pwedeng pag-usapan na wag lang yun sa basement viewing deck, i-expand ng konti ang kanilang, palawakin ng konti ang kanilang obserbasyon?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. We will coordinate with the Packing and Shipping Committee regarding the matter.
Mahirap yung nagtuturoan yung dalawang committee, mas nahihiro lahat ng tao. Total, hindi naman confidential itong mga pangyayaring to, tama ba? Hindi ba? This is conducted in the regular course of business and the distribution of ballots and further equipment.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Commissioner
I'd
Casquero.
just like to point out the resolution cited by Alex Ramos 10740 that refers to guidelines for accreditation of domestic and international observers. So I don't see any relation on this. But despite that, be that as it may, Madam Chair, there will be a send-off, I think, just like in the send-off of the vote counting machines. There will be a send-off for the deployment of our official ballots, Madam Chair. And that, again, I think that will be headed by Commissioner in charge, Amy Frelino, just like what happened in April 2, when there's a send-off of the first delivery of the vote counting machine. And since it will happen tomorrow, I guess there will be an announcement as to the start of the delivery of the official ballots. And
Yes.
the delivery is done not in NPO but in the passive warehouse. So we have to be aware of that. That coming from NPO before delivery to each municipal treasurers or city treasurers, it will be stored first in the passive warehouse where Alex Ramos happened to be in that area during the random testing of the official ballots.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Ramos. Thank you. But how are we guaranteed that no harassment of banning of observers will occur in the future?
Well, we will issue a advisory regarding that one to our employees of the commission regarding that one, Madam Chair.
Yes.
And then with regards to the investigation, we will furnish this committee as to what really happens, supported by any evidence or CCTVs of that matter, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Mr. Ramos. Any further comments or other comments also from Dr. Arvin of PPCRB, NAMFREL? Nakita ko kanina si Attorney Emil nandyan online. Baka ginutom na katulad natin.
Well, Madam
May
Chair,
maidadagdag pa po ba kayo?
I'd like to thank all the COMELEC. No? As far as the Santa Rosa warehouse is concerned, uh, we have a very pleasant stay there observing without any untoward incident, because the guards and the COMELEC personnel were all accommodating in providing us the necessary public information that we needed for our reporting. It's just that in the NPO, uh, is a different story. Eh. Parang man-to-man ang defense doon eh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arvin. Anything that you'd like to add, please? Your experiences in the past few weeks po?
Good morning again, Senator Amy, and also to all the people here inside the hearing room. We would like to ask the COMELEC if the walkthrough on data centers will still be pushing through. Yes, okay. And then also, we would like also to assure the chairperson of our Senate Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation that PPCRB will be very active before, during, and after the election. And we assured everyone that we will try our very best to be active, especially on election day. And we will be manning all the voters' assistance desks. And we'll try our best also to man all the polling precincts as what we have been campaigning for our volunteers recruitment. So rest assured that we will be active partners not only of COMELEC but also for all the general public. Thank you po.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arvin. Kayo yung aking mga suki dito sa committee. Ganon din si Attorney Emir at yung iba't iba pang mga poll watching bodies. Is there anything that needs to be added? Yes, Mr. Chairman, please.
Madam Chair, immediately upon our assumption of office, I have declared as a matter of policy full and complete transparency in all the processes of the COMELEC without compromising the security of the ballot and the SD cards. So we opened our Santa Rosa plant as well as our NPO printing office in Quezon City to the public. But yun nga, sa printing office namin sa Quezon City, merong viewing deck doon for every watchers and observers, to use para makita nila yung printing ng ballots. But if the observers want to move closer to the printing of the ballots, hindi pwede kasi merong security features yung ballot which we do not want to disclose. Kaya po, yun ang distance ng viewing date ng NPO office namin. So, but that incident involving that guard and that observer is really unfortunate, and we are investigating that. We want to take the sides also of the guard. Bakit niya ginawa yun? And then we can inform this body of what really transpired.
Thank you very much. Our new chairman was appointed in the middle of an election period, and certainly we recognize and applaud his efforts towards transparency balanced by security. Maraming salamat po. So with that, if there are no further comments regarding the local concerns, I'd like to move towards the OFW concerns of overseas voting. I believe the DOF, or I'm sorry, the DFA is here. Would you like to update us on the present status of our OFW vote?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to inform the committee, Madam Chair, that as of today, all of our posts worldwide already have voting ongoing, except for three posts, Madam Chair. One is in Dili, and this because of the um, non-receipt yet of the election materials. The other one is in Shanghai. As you know, Madam Chair, the entire city is on a lockdown, so we're also unable to pull out the materials from the warehouse. And the third one is in Damascus, Syria, where also the materials still have to be received and transported to the post. But we have been getting the report that they will be pulling out the equipment either today or tomorrow. So we expect that the materials will be at post within the week, Madam Chair. So with respect to the other posts, there are no incidents that are reported recently. Voting has been ongoing except for some posts, Madam Chair, where there's a deluge of voters, has been reported sometimes in social media. But that is because uh, of the number, the population of our OFWs who are very eager to participate in the elections. We have, however, come up with an advisory for all of our posts to observe the local host government public safety rules. Because being guests in a foreign country, we are also bound by the rules given out by the host governments. So that is the current situation all over the world with respect to our posts for overseas voting, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you very much, Yusek Dulay. Of course, we've all heard about the reports recorded in the case of Singapore and unconfirmed in the case of Dubai of pre-shaded ballots. What is the update on this incident? Did the, did the chairperson of the SBEI authenticate the ballot?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to emphasize, Madam Chair, and inform the committee that there is no truth to the allegation circulating in social media that pre-shaded ballots were distributed to overseas voters, except for that incident in Singapore where there was an impression that a pre-shaded ballot was given. But we would like to call out the news circulating about this. Insofar as the reports of our posts are concerned, the alleged uh, distribution of pre-shaded ballots are fake news, Madam Chair. And just to point out the details of this one, Madam Chair.
May I just get a clarification? You said that in Singapore, the impression was given of a pre-shaded ballot. What do you mean by an impression?
Well, Madam Chair, by virtue of a human error, when the ballot was given out to the voter, nagkadikit po yung balota. So meron pong dalawa na naibigay dahil po yung sa imprenta, magkadikit po siya. And when this ballot was filled up, the voter actually filled up two ballots. Kasi po magkadikit eh. So when this was brought in to the DCM, nakita naman po yung isa eh. And that was considered a spoiled ballot. And this was placed, again, partly due to human error. This was mixed or placed in the receptacle for the unused valid ballots.
Okay.
So yun pong pumunta yung next voter, yung ating pong mga tauhan doon, yung staff, nakuha po yung supposed to be spoiled ballot, and that was the one that was given out.
I see.
So for that purpose, Madam Chair, there was an explanation already. And Madam Chair, this incident was in fact recorded in the minutes.
That's correct, yes.
Because these kinds of incidents should always be
Credit
recorded.
them for doing
Yes.
that. That's correct.
So it was
We
recorded,
saw it.
Madam Chair.
Oo, tama. Itatanong ko lang siguro on the part of COMELEC, alam ko hindi naman kayo makakapunta sa lahat ng kasulok-sulukan ng mundo kung saan may OFW tayo. Di ba the SBEI should authenticate the ballot before handing it out? Ano ba nangyari doon? Kung sakasakaling yun nga ang nangyari at nagkadikitan yung dalawang balota, napirmahan ba ng chairperson ng SBEI to authenticate it before issuing it? Paano nangyari yun? How did they fail to spot that?
Madam Chair, we have no personal information of how it was authenticated, but based on our general instructions, the box for the chairman of the SBEI or the electoral board is on the front page, of the ballots. If the allegation is that two ballots were given, so it must have been authenticated on the first page only, because
And
there's
of the
no need to
second
look
one.
at the back page, because there's no authentication of the
I see.
chairman. So
Oo.
that might be the case, Madam Chair.
In any
if
case-
they were not able, or the chairman were not able to see that there were two ballots. that
In
was
any case, the
given.
mistake was rectified, as I understand it, because only one ballot was inserted into the VCM, and unfortunately, the second ballot was placed into the pile of new ballots. Is that correct? That was
That
the
is correct,
mistake.
Madam Chair. And in fact, after this was recorded in the minutes, just to show the regularity of the event, there were also the poll watchers who were also present. So everyone was aware of what happened. It was duly
Okay.
recorded, Madam
Yung
Chair.
sa
Thank you.
Dubai, do we have any further information? Kasi nababalitaan natin sa social media, pati
Yes.
sa dyaryo. Totoo ba yun? At naagapan ba yung...
Our host, Madam Chair, has denied the allegations. There
Okay.
is no report whatsoever. In fact, there is no statement in the minutes regarding this matter. No poll watcher has ever objected or said that there was such an incident. So
Alright.
it is not true, Madam Chair.
Okay, so that deals with the Singapore and Dubai allegations of appreciated ballot. What about the problems that have been raised regarding double sending of ballots? Can the OVSOFOV confirm that there were incidents of double sending of ballots? Who writes and affixes the names ba in the mailing addresses? Is it
Madam Chair,
OV or OVS?
Madam Chair, if I may, the official ballots, depending on the mode of voting,
Okay.
are all received at post. So if it's postal, in this case, I would assume in Stockholm, they are voting via postal. These were received already packaged at the post.
Yes, but do they contain the names and mailing addresses already?
Yes,
The envelopes and so on, the stamps to
yes,
send them out?
Madam Chair, the kit
or the package coming from Manila, once it reaches the post, already includes the envelope with the mailing address and the name. So that all that needs to be done afterwards really is for the post to send it out and work with the local post or courier to send it out to
So
the
you're
voters.
saying that the error was not committed by the DFA but by COMELEC here in Manila?
Well, this is what we have verified is that there are, and it's possible that there, because ang basehan po namin will be the address. As soon as we get the list and there are different addresses, then we send it out already. Automatic po yun dahil nakapackage na po yung kahon. And I would just like to point out, Madam Chair, that our posts, when they got this, many of them got this, the official ballots almost just a day or no more than 3 days prior to the start of the overseas voting. We're talking about thousands po, Madam Chair. We're
That's
talking
right.
about thousands. And we have limited personnel. Actually, overtime po ng mga tao
Oo,
namin.
limited talaga. I mean,
And
sa
they have to
DFA
check.
at COMELEC.
In large posts, they have to check as much as around 200,000 envelopes, really individual envelopes. So we only have to send it out based on how we receive the package, Madam Chair, and we base it on that one, Madam Chair.
Yes, having established responsibility, the question is, what happens if the voter submits both mailed ballots? What are the safeguards, if any, in place that only one ballot will be counted from one voter? Kasi
Well,
sabi nga ninyo, depende na sa address yan eh. Eh kung iba-ibang address yan,
yes, Madam Chair, we rely on we will double check po kasi after it's been sent out. In the case of the voter in Stockholm, we have already checked that in fact there's two names. And after this, Madam Chair, we have started asking our post to check all of their lists
yes.
and flag all of those that have a similar or the same name and have to verify when it arrives whether this should be treated as an identical ballot or this is a unique ballot. Kasi meron pong case kami po na nakuha naman, mag-ama naman, totoong pareho pangalan po, pero
Pangalan na pareho.
mag-ama.
That's
Opo.
right.
So we
Yes,
cannot,
I heard about that.
but
yes.
we just have to flag it now. And we are doing that right before, we have enough time, Madam Chair, to do that. So our posts are doing that. But really, we have reached out also to COMELEC, nag-uusap na po kami, and we are asking for additional information in the certified list of voters so that we can actually disaggregate yung mga identical entries kasi kulang po kasi yung data sa
That's
amin.
correct. Because as much as the COMELEC prints out the names and addresses, the envelopes are actually mailed out by you, by the DFA post. So it's important that you check as well that there's no doubling or tripling even in certain cases of these ballots mailed out, diba?
That is correct po, Madam Chair, which is why we are working with COMELEC and we have requested na sana may additional data noong sa certified list such as,
Yes, I think
a
I
birthday
suppose
or
that's
some
something we
other
should
type of.
consider, yeah, some mother's birthday and so on,
Yes,
as they do with credit cards, given that our OFWs have really burgeoned and many of them are relatives with very similar names.
Yes, that's true, Madam Chair. But we would like to emphasize, Madam Chair, to this committee that these are really isolated incidents. This is not widespread.
So you have other reports from other countries besides Sweden?
Yes, Madam Chair, there are some reports that coming in from Nagoya and that it's possible that there may be a voter, but they are checking it now. Some of the packages don't have an official ballot included as reported by the voter, and that's the reason why, Madam Chair, uh, we are just collating now all of the uh, incidents being reported because I hope our people understand that when we receive this
Yes.
3 days before and we have 15 people working on 20,000 envelopes, we would be physically unable really to go and check each and
Yes,
every one
we
of them.
understand. I mean, the ideal situation would be for COMELEC and DFA to have an ongoing updating of our OFW files. But the reality is we've been confronted with COVID and the shortage of personnel has really hampered our services. I think there's one other issue, and USEC Dulay has already commented on that, which is the report that the person who has not been a registered voter of the Philippines since 1998 was still sent a ballot through the mail in Nagoya, Japan. How did that occur?
With respect to the report, um, we are going to verify that, but we have not received a report that a registered voter
Oo.
has received a ballot.
Nasa dyaryo kanina.
Um, Your Honor, the DFA sends out a packet based on a certified list of voters given to the post. So kung meron pong napadala at official po itong packet na ito, hindi po siya fake, then it will definitely be derived from a certificate of certified list of voters. Meron po siyang pakete na
Okay,
nanggaling
yes, she got a complete packet. The Japan resident is called Herminia Kobayashi. She's not been registered as a voter since 1998. Nagulat siya at nakatanggap siya bigla ng mail-in ballot from the Special Ballot Reception and Custody Group, Embassy of the Republic of the Philippines. She has complete information with the ballot ID number 9017008, ballot envelope number AES 1023660. So, pakihanap na lang po kasi natanggap namin yung reklamong yan. At siguro yung COMELEC, tulungan rin tayo. Kasi 1998 pa daw siya, hindi bumoboto. Matagal na sa Japan, siguro nakapag-asawa na. Okay, last but not least, I think everyone present is determined to have as wide OFW representation as possible. However, Yusek Dulay says that only 3 posts are left to do their to complete their absentee voting, and yet out of the 1.8 plus million registered OFWs qualified to vote, the number of voters who have actually voted so far is only 334,353. That means it's a miserable 18.38 percentage. I hope my numbers are wrong and that I simply haven't been updated. Wala ba tayong magawa um, to raise the participation of our OFWs? They're so heavily invested in our country, and yet the numbers are miserable. 16%, 25%, ngayon 18%. Apaka-konti naman na nakakapagboto. Bakit kaya? Nakakapagrehistro sila, ba't hindi sila nakakaboto? Ano bang problema? Commissioner Bulay, please.
Thank you very much, ma'am. One issue I have heard, because I was asked to oversee the UAE training
Mm-hmm.
for our OFWs. This was raised by, concern was raised by our partners from the DFA because of space requirement. Right now, total of voters, overseas voters, register at least 1.6 million. So in the coming years, they're projected to grow more. If we solve the problem of those people registered in the Philippines, but they don't know how to make it happen that the registration in the Philippines would be valid for them to vote in the post that they're assigned. So that speaks, madam, of 2 problems. The space requirement with respect to the consulates. Because can you imagine, the UAE? They have, I think, 700,000 OFWs in the UAE. So much so is only registered. If all of them will register and vote, the consulate, specifically in Dubai, will not have space for them to vote at the same time. Although that's why we have the elections That's a month before the election they can do, but all they can do is program it. But there'll come a time that they will need more space. And the problem um, resonates more than that because elections are done in the consulate because that is Philippine soil.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
the problem goes more than space. I think there should be, we need the help of Congress on that, both DFA, the COMELEC, and our people, madam. So basically, that is my observation, and that goes for all the posts.
Is that doable? Can we actually stagger by alphabetical order or by address such that the DFA does not get completely crowded in its post and is unable to handle the onslaught of voters at the same time on the first day at the first hour?
Madam, I asked the same question. The people in the UAE, our government service post people there, are holding elections before and after office hours in their post. So they can surely accommodate people working because that is normally the problem. They cannot leave work to vote. So what they do is they hold the elections even at ungodly hours. That's why they do overtime.
Right.
Given the space requirement, that creates a problem also. When people see that so many people are queuing up, they will not. They will go home. They will go to work,
That's
and they
correct.
cannot wait. So I'm
Although,
raising that
although I've
issue
seen
so
the
that
DFA
consider. Thank you.
That's right. But although, of course, I've witnessed the DFA's valiant efforts to open on Saturdays, Sundays, holidays, and throughout the year in posts just to accommodate our OFWs. Hirap talaga. It's the reality. Yusek Dulay, perhaps you have something to add to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One structural problem for holding overseas voting, Madam Chair, is that while the law allowed Filipinos to vote overseas, it did not provide a separate budget for us to do that. Kami po ay umaasa lamang po sa COMELEC para makatanggap po yung aming post ng panggastos. Kaya po limitado din po yung aming pamamaraan kung paano namin tutugunan yung responsibilidad po na ibinigay sa Department of Foreign Affairs na hindi naman po kaakibat ang pondo. So
Tama.
ayun po yung tama po si Commissioner Bulay that this probably needs legislation. And in respect, tama po din ang sabi niyo, Madam Chair, that's a very good um, protocol that we may follow. Baka pwede naman by surname or alphabetical. But of course, being the implementers only, Madam Chair, of the overseas voting law, we will require the guidance first of the COMELEC
That's right.
if they will allow it in their general instructions for us to do that type. Kami po sa Department of Foreign Affairs, mga embassy po namin at consulate, bukas po kami 7 days a week po. Kahit po nitong Semana Santa, bukas po ang aming embassies at consulate. May tao po kami, naghihintay po kami na makaboboto. Yun din po ang magiging problema po namin, Madam Chair, is that yung mga tao po na yun, napakakonti lang po eh. We need to hire more, but we don't really have enough funds to hire a place, more people. And I would just like to point out, Madam Chair, for the committee, the fact that, Filipinos, mataas po yung ating registration, but historically, the number of voters have been very low. So yun din po tinatanong namin, why has it been historically a low number, depending on the post.
Yeah.
And it depends, for instance, in certain countries, for example, in the Middle East, where a lot of our Filipinos are household service workers, and regardless of the day or time, they are unable to go and visit our embassies or consulates. So, mahirap naman din po talaga ang ating mga kababayan na napuntahan ng ating mga embassy o consulate, lalo po kung malawak po yung bansa. So, hindi po kami napapayagan mag-mobile dahil sa eleksyon po wala pong mobile sa embassy lang po consulate gagawin. So, maaari pong pag-isipan ibang pamamaraan para po mabigyan ng pagkakataon yung ating mga kababayan na makaboto kahit po sila ay hindi na dumalo sa ating embassy or consulate. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Yusek. And you've mentioned one is the possibility of COMELEC allowing staggered voting alphabetically or per region or dividing up our OFWs in some way. The other possibility was to allow mobile precincts in the OFW areas.
Mobile outreach.
Mobile outreach posts. Perhaps we could study that. Um, the other thing would be, of course, to designate certain volunteers to assist the DFA as well. I know that many OFW groups are highly organized and would like to participate in the suffrage process. So baka naman pwedeng magpadagdag ng tao through our OFW themselves. Gusto nila tumulong. Another question that I would pose with COMELEC is how can we perhaps expand the use of mail-in voting? Let's use it more extensively in countries where the postal service is very highly regarded and reliable. Perhaps that's another option. So I think even at this hearing alone, there are many suggestions and new ideas that we need to explore and address the paucity of OFW participation in our elections.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yep.
If I may add, Madam Chair.
Yeah, please, sorry.
We are very much aware that for the previous elections, we have a low voting turnout in our overseas voting. That is why in these coming elections, we introduce some enhancement. Like, for example, the vote anywhere concept, wherein the usual reason why an overseas voter were not able to vote because during the voting period, they are not in the post or in the country where they are registered. So that is why we introduced the concept of vote anywhere. For as long as you are a registered voter, an overseas registered voter, regardless of wherever you are, provided that the said post is implementing in-person voting, we allow that one, just a manifestation. And so far, we already received 654 voters who manifested to exercise the vote anywhere. So these 654 voters, overseas voters, if we do not implement this resolution, we surely cannot vote because they are not in the country where they are registered. So we are hoping for an increase of an applications of this vote anywhere concept. The second we implement also, Madam Chair, is the mobile voting, wherein our consulate and embassy can go into area. We approve certain requests in post that they will go into that area within their jurisdiction to implement mobile voting. So instead of the voters going to the embassy to vote, they just wait for the schedule of the post. And even it is also applicable to mail voting. Like in US, when in New York, when we have our town hall meeting recently, they will go to some areas. And even they reach out to our voters, those with different address within the same jurisdiction. Because we were able to get into touch some return mail or return to sender ballots. So it so happens siguro, iba na yung address nila but still in that country. So ina-allow din po namin yung they will have to update their address before mailing. So para po sigurado na makukuha ng overseas voter. And also for that, we entered into a memorandum of agreement with the FA, giving them funding. In fact, we already downloaded about 350 million for them. But during the budget hearing, the offer suggested for 800 million, but the DBM give us only 100 million. So we source it out into some other savings of the COMELEC. So we are fortunate that our chairman supports the OFOB with regards to this budget. And kaya nga, yung ating post can do mobile registration, mobile voting. For the future, Madam Chair, maybe we will explore.
Just for point of clarification, Commissioner Casquejo, pareho rin ba to dun sa mobile outreach na sinasabi ni Yusek Dulay kanina?
Yes po, may mga countries kasi they request for mobile outreach for voting, and then we allow that one kasi the previous elections wala silang budget. And with the memorandum of agreement, binigyan po namin ng budget yung aming overseas yung aming DFA, yung post. Kulang lang.
Ba yan? Lahat kayo nagmamalimos.
Kasi po, depleted na pala na talaga yung budget namin because what was being provided to us is only 100 million.
Tayo.
And then, 350 million na po yung nabigay namin sa
Tama.
DFA.
Totoo. Alam naman natin yan. So, Yusek Dulay, tama ba yun? Yun din yung mobile outreach. Bakit sabi
Well,
ninyo hindi nagawa? Sabi ni Commissioner,
except-
meron naman kayong usapan.
Hindi po kasi ito ginawa as a policy that general, the posts have to request. What we are recommending is that if we really want to increase the accessibility of our ballots and voting centers to our kababayans, we have to really make this rather than an exception. Per post po kasi yung request and approval po ng COMELEC. Make this as a policy that ganun na po. Meron ng outreach tayo, but that will of course, Madam Chair, include a budget component because as people, if we have to go out of our jurisdiction or even within the same jurisdiction, gagastos po yung post natin, pan-transportation, magre-rent po ng lugar where the mobile voting can be. Meron pong mga ganun pong administrative matters lang po na kailangan din po ayusin. Thank you, Madam Chair.
That's right, Yusek. And that's a problem even here locally, as we know well, whereas we've been conducting special precinct processes in the BJMP and the other jails. We have also had trouble with requests for the IPs in the remote areas, as well as the new phenomenon of quarantine and isolation facilities requesting that voting be conducted in C2. So maraming problema dyan at talagang kulang ang budget natin. We commend Commissioner Casquejo as well as the COMELEC for the vote anywhere policy. We are hopeful that in the future, we can also take into consideration those OFWs who were repatriated, thereafter expatriated, magulo na talaga yung address nun. Ganon din po yung daing ng ating mga seamen. Kasi kung saan-saan sila napapadpad, yung iba natanggal matapos ang 6 na buwan, yung iba naman 2 taong na mahigit, hindi pa nauwi. So these are the problems that confront us with our highly global Filipinos. To all of you, thank you very much for your sufferance and your cooperation. This has been an enlightening morning. I'm sorry that we have encroached upon our lunch hour, but I believe we've brought light to many, many issues. Is there any more that needs to be discussed? Are there any participants who would like to bolt in with further queries? Or those who have not had the opportunity to say their piece? Okay, if everyone is more or less content with what has occurred, may I simply request and reiterate for previous requests for certain listings and guidelines and copies of resolutions from the COMELEC, perhaps also from the Smartmatic, more explanations as already discussed, and from the NBI, updates as the investigation goes along. To all of you, thank you very much. And let us have a fair, free, and open election on May 9. Thank you po. Higit sa lahat sa ating COMELEC. Maraming salamat.